The storm outside was merciless that night, rain drumming against the tall glass walls of Sterling Heights Corporation like 1,000 pounding hearts. Inside the empty building, only one man moved through the silence. His name was Ethan Cole, the night janitor everyone overlooked, the man who cleaned up after the city's most powerful people had gone home. He wore faded work boots, pushed a mop, and carried the kind of quiet sadness that clung to him like the scent of bleach. No one at the company knew that behind that weary face was a man once full of dreams, a man who had loved deeply, lost tragically, and now lived only for his little girl, Lily, sleeping soundly a few miles away with her stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. If you believe that kindness still matters, that second chances can find even the most broken hearts, then please, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Because tonight's story isn't just about love, it's about redemption. Ethan's shift had started like any other, quiet, uneventful, and lonely. The corridors glowed faintly with fluorescent light, reflecting off spotless floors he'd polished countless times. But something was different that night. On the 47th floor, where the executive offices were, one light was still on. It belonged to Claire Sterling, the CEO, young, brilliant, beautiful, and known to the world as the woman who could turn failing companies into empires. To Ethan, she was untouchable, a woman made of sharp edges and impossible grace, living in a world where men like him only existed to sweep the dust beneath her heels. When he'd first seen her months ago, striding past him with her phone pressed to her ear, he had felt something stir inside, an ache he hadn't felt in years, but he buried it the way he buried everything else that hurt. He had no time for dreams, not when Lily depended on him. His life was about survival, not love. That night, when he stepped into her office to empty the trash, she was still there, head buried in papers, her usually perfect hair falling loosely around her face. She looked exhausted, defeated even. For a moment he thought about quietly turning back, not wanting to intrude. But before he could leave, she spoke, her voice softer than he had ever heard it. "You can come in," she said, not even looking up. "I could use the noise. Makes me feel less alone." Ethan hesitated, then slowly walked in. "Long night?" he asked gently, surprised by his own voice breaking the silence. She looked up then, eyes tired, rimmed with unshed tears. "Every night's a long night lately," she replied. "Sometimes I wonder if this is all worth it." He didn't know what to say. What could a janitor possibly offer a CEO drowning in her empire's weight? But then she smiled faintly and asked him a question that would change everything. "Tell me something, Ethan. What does peace feel like?" He froze. No one ever asked him things like that. He wasn't supposed to have thoughts or feelings worth hearing. But her eyes were sincere, searching. So he told her the truth. "Peace," he said after a moment, "is when I come home and my daughter runs into my arms. When she laughs so loud I forget the bills, the pain, everything. For a little while I remember what it feels like to matter." Claire looked at him like she was seeing a person for the first time, not an employee number. And in that quiet exchange, two souls from different worlds, something unspoken bloomed. The nights that followed changed everything. Each time Ethan worked late, he'd find Claire still there, working, crying, fighting battles no one knew about. Slowly, walls began to crumble. They shared coffee, stories, small smiles. She told him about the fiancé who had left her when her career consumed her life. He told her about losing his wife during childbirth, about raising Lily alone. They found solace in each other's brokenness. But the world they lived in wasn't kind to such things. One morning, an assistant walked in unexpectedly and saw Ethan sitting across from Claire, laughing softly over coffee. By noon, whispers filled the building. The janitor and the CEO. "He's using her. She's lost her mind." The story spread like wildfire, twisting something pure into something scandalous. Claire's board demanded explanations. Her reputation, carefully built over years, was suddenly fragile. They wanted Ethan gone. "It's inappropriate," they told her. "Unprofessional. Dangerous." When Ethan heard what was happening, he tried to leave before she had to make that choice. He found her in her office that evening, staring at the skyline, her face pale with pain. "You don't have to say it," he said quietly. "I understand. This was never meant to be." But she turned, tears brimming. "Don't you dare walk away like I'm just your boss," she whispered. "You were the only real thing in my life, Ethan." He wanted to hold her, to tell her that none of it mattered, that he didn't care about titles or wealth, that her eyes had become his peace. But reality was cruel. He was a janitor, a single dad barely holding his life together. What could he give her that she didn't already have 1,000 times over? So he left. Days turned into weeks. Claire became colder, more distant. Rumors continued to swirl. Ethan found work at a smaller building across town. He tried to focus on Lily, but every time he tucked her into bed, he thought of Claire, of the way she used to look at him when the world outside faded away. Then one rainy afternoon, as he was mopping a lobby floor, a familiar pair of heels clicked behind him. He turned, and there she was. Claire Sterling, soaked to the bone, standing in front of him with eyes full of things words couldn't express. "I quit," she said breathlessly. "The board wanted a puppet, not a person. So I walked away." Ethan stared, not believing. "Claire, you can't just—" "I can," she interrupted softly, "because somewhere between the meetings and the money I forgot what love feels like. But when you walked away, I remembered." Before he could respond, she stepped closer, her voice trembling. "Kiss me like you mean it," she whispered. "Because this time I don't want to pretend anymore." He didn't hold back. Years of loneliness, longing, and silent love poured into that kiss. It wasn't polished or perfect. It was raw, honest, and real. The world around them disappeared. For the first time in forever, they weren't CEO and janitor. They were just two broken people who had finally found home. But life, as always, tested them. News of their relationship spread again, this time through social media. Some people mocked her. Others called it inspiring. Claire faced criticism, but this time she didn't hide. She stood before the cameras and said, "Love doesn't need titles to be real. I found mine in a man who reminded me that hearts matter more than hierarchies." The world slowly came around. She started her own company, smaller, more humane, hiring people others overlooked. She asked Ethan to join her, not as a janitor, but as the facilities manager. "I'd trust no one else with building what really matters," she told him. He accepted, but only after talking to Lily. When he told his little girl that Claire wanted to be part of their lives, Lily had smiled in that pure, childlike way that heals everything. "Is she the lady who makes you smile, Daddy?" she asked. When he nodded, she threw her arms around him and whispered, "Then she's already part of our family." Months passed, and their lives slowly began to intertwine. Ethan and Claire moved into a modest house together, where Lily's laughter filled the rooms that had once been silent. They spent Sunday mornings making pancakes, Saturday nights dancing in the kitchen. Claire, once afraid of vulnerability, found peace in small moments, helping Lily with homework, falling asleep on Ethan's shoulder while the TV hummed softly in the background. Yet even in their happiness, they never forgot where they came from. Claire made sure her new company gave jobs to single parents, ex-convicts, and those society ignored. Ethan became the quiet soul behind her vision, the man who taught everyone there that humility was strength, not weakness. One evening, on the anniversary of the night they first truly saw each other, Claire and Ethan returned to the Sterling Heights building. It was empty now, its lights dim, the echo of footsteps haunting the marble floors. Standing there, memories flooded back. She turned to him, eyes shining in the dim light. "If you hadn't spoken that night," she whispered, "I'd still be lost in a world that didn't feel alive." He smiled softly. "And if you hadn't listened," he replied, "I'd still be cleaning up after people who never saw me." They stood there for a long while, two souls who had found light in the unlikeliest place. Love hadn't saved them instantly. It had tested, broken, and rebuilt them. But in the end, it was real. If this story touched your heart, if you believe love can bloom in the most unexpected places, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment to remind someone that second chances are real. And before you go, tell us in the comments below, do you believe love can find you when you least expect it? Because sometimes, it's not about the perfect moment. It's about the imperfect people who decide to stay and mean it when they say, "Kiss me like you mean it."